Hello. Today I thought we'd look at another book by Julia Donaldson, which is called The Smartest Giant in Town. Julia Donaldson has written lots and lots of books, and this is one of my favourites. So Julia Donaldson is the author, and Alex Scheffler is the illustrator. And as we know, the illustrator draws the pictures, and Julia Donaldson is the author, so she wrote the words. So let's have a look at what we can read today. The Smartest Giant in Town. And there is the giant. Can you see him? He doesn't look very happy there. I hope this is going to be a happy book. George was a giant, the scruffiest giant in town. He always wore the same pair of old brown sandals and the same old patched up gown. I wish I wasn't the scruffiest giant in town, he said sadly. But one day, George noticed a new shop. It was full of smart clothes. So he bought a smart shirt, a smart pair of trousers, a smart belt, a smart stripy tie, some smart socks, and a pair of smart shiny shoes. Now I'm the smartest giant in town, he says. George left his old clothes behind in the shop, and he was about to go home when he heard a sound. On the pavement stood a giraffe who was sniffling sadly. "What's the matter?" asked George. "Well, it's my neck," said the giraffe. "It's so very long and so very cold. I wish I had a long warm scarf." "Cheer up," said George as he took off his stripy tie. "It didn't match my socks anyway," he said as he wound and wound it round and round the giraffe's neck. It made a wonderful scarf. "Thank you," said the giraffe. As George strode towards home, he sang to himself, "My tie is a scarf for a cold giraffe, but look me up and down. I'm the smartest giant in town." And I think he does look very smart, don't you? George came to a river, and on a boat stood a goat who was bleating loudly. "Oh, what's the matter?" asked George. "It's my sail," said the goat. "It blew away in the storm. I wish I had a new strong sail for my boat." "Oh, cheer up," said George. He took off his new white shirt. It kept coming untucked anyway, he said, as he tied it to the mast of the goat's boat. It made a magnificent sail. "Thank you," said the goat. George strode on, singing to himself. "My tie is a scarf for a cold giraffe. My shirt's on a boat, has a sail for a goat. But look me up and down. I'm the smartest giant in town." Well, he's got no shirt and no tie, but he does still look quite smart, doesn't he? George came to a tiny ruined house, and beside the house stood a white mouse with lots of baby mice, and they were all squeaking. "What's the matter?" asked George. "It's our house," squeaked Mother Mouse. "It burnt down, and now we have nowhere to live. I wish we had a nice new house. Look at them all. Got nowhere to live." "Cheer up," said George, and he took off one of his shiny shoes. "It was giving me blisters anyway," he said as the mouse and her babies scrambled inside. The shoe made a perfect home for them. "Thank you," they squealed. George had to hop along the road now, but he didn't mind, and as he hopped he sang to himself. "My tie is a scarf for a cold giraffe. My shirt's on a boat, has a sail for a goat. My shoe is a house for a little white mouse. But look me up and down. I'm the smartest giant in town." What do you think now? Do you think he looks very smart? Not really. George came to a campsite. Beside a tent stood a fox who was crying. "What's the matter?" asked George. "It's my sleeping bag," said the fox. "I dropped it in a puddle. I wish I had a warm, dry sleeping bag," said the fox. "Cheer up," said George as he took off one of his socks with the diamonds up the sides. "It was tickling my toes anyway," he said, as the fox snuggled into it. It made a very fine sleeping bag. "Thank you," said the fox. George hopped on, singing to himself. "My tie is a scarf for a cold giraffe, my shirt's on a boat as a sail for a goat, my shoe is a house for a little white mouse, one of my socks is a bed for a fox, but look me up and down, I'm the smartest giant in town." George came to a big squelchy bog. Beside the bog stood a dog who was howling. "Ooh, ooh." "What's the matter?" asked George. "It's this bog," said the dog. "I need to get across it, but I keep getting stuck in the mud. I wish there was a safe, dry path." "Cheer up," said George, and he took off his smart new belt. "It was squashing my tummy anyway," he said as he laid it over the bog. "It made an excellent path." "Thank you," said the dog. The wind started to blow, but George didn't mind. He hopped on, singing to himself. "My tie is a scarf for a cold giraffe, my shirt's on a boat as a sail for a goat, my shoe is a house for a little white mouse, one of my socks is a bed for a fox, my belt helped a dog who was crossing a bog, but my trousers are falling down, I'm the coldest giant in town." Suddenly George felt sad and shivery and not at all smart. He stood on one foot and thought, "I'll have to go back to the shop and buy some more clothes," he decided. He turned around and hopped all the way back to the shop. But when he got there, the shop was closed. "Oh no," cried George. He sank down onto the doorstep and a tear ran down his nose. He felt as sad as all the animals he had met on his way home. Then, out of the corner of his eye, he saw a bag with something familiar poking out of the top. George took a closer look. "My gown," he said. "My dear old gown and sandals." George put them on. They felt wonderfully comfortable. "I'm the cosiest giant in town," and he danced back home along the road. Outside his door stood the animals he had helped, and they were carrying an enormous present. "Come on, George," they said, "open it." George untied the ribbon, and inside was a beautiful gold paper crown and card. "Look inside the card, George," said the animals. George put the crown on his head and opened the card. It said, see if you can read it. Shall we read it together? "You gave your scarf to a cold giraffe, your shirt's on a boat as a sail for a goat, your shoe is a house for a little white mouse, one of your socks is a bed for a fox, your belt helped a dog who was crossing a bog, so here is a very fine crown to go with the sandals and gown of the kindest giant in town." Well done if you helped me read that. And that's the end. And that was The Smartest Giant in Town by Julia Donaldson. I hope you enjoyed that as much as me. Bye for now.